Okay, so right now we're just kind of laying out the diodes, not in a particular configuration, but take note of the colors of each diode. So you have this yellow diode and then this more orange, reddish orange looking diode. And we're going to be putting all 24 diodes into a configuration, placing them into a particular style. Make sure you have your diode calves up. I wasn't thinking about that when I started this video. So basically, here's most of all the components that you're working with, and then you have the wire that's going to connect each diode together. But again, there you go. There's a yellow diode, and then like that orangish red diode. This is going to be primarily your red diode. It's a booster for bloom. And we're going to be using this particular configuration here. Take a note of the placement of the red diodes on all four corners of the plate. A red diode goes, and then in the center four diodes are the red diodes. The rest are all the yellow diodes. It's very simple to remember this configuration. And here we want to take a look at the holes. See the bigger holes in the plate? Okay. The wire terminals, which have those little beige looking caps on them, they need to be facing towards the larger hole, and you'll be seeing why here in a little bit as we progress the video along. But again, the configuration is all four corners have a red diode and then four red diodes in the center. This gives a very symmetrical broadcast of spectrum. So you don't get, unlike other grow lights, you get a hot spot in the middle, or a different spectrum off over in the corner. With this light, the spectrum will be consistent across the board, not giving you necessarily any hot spots because of its intensity and broadcast. So again, look at which way you face the diodes. Here we have screwed the diodes on. So at this point, you can go ahead and pause the video, screw all the diodes in. But again, see this little cap? Make sure that the cap is facing that larger hole. See the larger hole, made into the plate? The caps have to be facing that larger hole. So when you place your diodes on there, make sure they're the wire terminals, as you can see, these wire terminals that we're going to be soldering wire to, make sure those are facing the hole. Now, as you see here, that big hole, that's what we're talking about. Those wire terminals need to face that hole. That is the direction that each diode needs to be placed for the configuration to be wired, and all the wires to go through that hole and easily have access to those terminals. So take a look here how these wire terminals are being bent outward away from one another. So we have two sets of wire terminals, and what we want to do is try to bend the outer plate away to give us a little room to fit the wires into that. You want to go over each and every diode and bend them out, as you can see here. It's kind of bent out. That way it gives a little extra space. We want to try to keep the positive and negative wire as far apart from one another as possible. If you take a look here, if you're real hard on it and you accidentally break one of those away from the LED, you can just tack solder it right back. See the L and N? Those are little square soldering points. If you break one away from there with the pliers, you can simply solder it back. We include an extra diode or two so that if you happen to Incredible Hulk one and break one off of there for any reason, you don't have to worry. You get extra wire. So here's the wire that you're going to be provided in the kit. It comes in two spools. You take the wire and you put it together. Now the black goes to the end. Now we know standard electrical that may not be the case. However, to make everything easy, since AC can be wired inversely, we use the black wire that we include with your kit to go to the in terminal on each diode. So take a look at that logo. Notice that the logo is flipped upside down. Now you may have put your diodes on the other side. Either way, whichever way you chose to put the diodes. We like to put the diodes on this side so that when it's glowing on the back side of the light, you can see the logo. We're going to go ahead and solder the terminal here. But again, if you need to, pause the video, go back, take a look at where the logo is, and look at which diode we're starting with first. Here's a pair of wire strippers. You can buy them for like $5 at Harbor Freight. Wire strippers are not included with the kit. You'll have to have your own. I mean, a pocket knife works well, but let me tell you, we do these a lot, and for $5 at Harbor Freight, that automatic stripper, if we broke one today, we would go and get another one today. That's how useful it is. There's another pair of wire strippers, very more common, but they're nothing as convenient as those auto strippers for $5 at Harbor Freight. I literally buy my team those. They're super convenient, and you'll soon see why. So here, the red terminal is getting soldered. The red wire is getting soldered to the L terminal. So black goes to N, red goes to L. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the orientation of the diodes again with the logo. Take a note at those four holes between, on the left side of the video, the 4 holes between the 2 yellow diodes. That's where the power cord is going to get mounted. So use that as your reference point as you're building this grow light. Use that as your reference point to know where we're starting from. We're starting with the diode that's to the right of those holes. So here is a real simple way to measure from one diode to another. So we're running, the wire over. Go from the big hole, then go to the furthest away from the big hole. Go to the screw point, and that's where you need to cut the wire. That way you don't cut them too long or too short. That's the easiest way for us to reference in the video how you can do this. Now, see how we cut the wire, and now she's got 4 pairs of wire? The other 2 pair are coming from the wire that we provide you. So just kind of, take both the black and red wire that we provide you, keep them together, and pair them together like this, like shown. So we have wire that's running from one diode over to this second diode, and then we have red and black wire that is we paired up, from the kit, the extra wire that you're given to complete the kit with. We combine those together when we shove them through the hole, because it goes through the hole much easier if you strip them. If you strip them first, they're kind of more of a fight to get through that hole. So if you push them through and then strip them, as you see here, then they go together quite easily. And what we're doing here is by doing it this way, and we do a lot of lights, and we've learned the fastest way, and this is the fastest way to do it, that you basically are chaining the wires that need to go to the third diode are being soldered in right now. So it just kind of makes everything real quick and fast. This video is about 27 minutes long. It may take you a little bit longer to build it out, your first time, but then you'll be amazed at how fast you could build one of these. Just wait till you turn this thing on. I promise you, this is probably the brightest grow light you have ever seen in your entire life. And also, be sure if you buy the kit, for those people that build the kit and send a video in or a picture in of their kit completed, you get a free camouflage NukeHeads hat. We call it the General's hat, which is for those individuals that are true NukeHeads. They've built our lights. They use our nutrients. We have our own nutrients. We have bud boosters. If you want rock hard dense buds, use this light with our nutrients and our maple sugar super bud booster. You can check out all our products on Amazon.com. But going back to the build video here, as you can see, we're kind of rinsing and repeating the process. So, excuse me, we had the wire come over from that second diode now to the third. And again, we just kind of repeated what we did. We bring the 2 wires from the second diode over to the third, but we go ahead and combine our additional wire to complete the kit. We put the red and black to pair all of them together, and we shove them through the hole. That way it's real simple, real fast, all one move. Some of you may prefer to do one red wire to another red wire, but doing it this way, you knock out both red and black all in one move. So it's the fastest thing done. Now for a reference again, just so you know where we're starting from, take the logo, look at the logo, notice the 4 points by my finger, those 4 holes, which is a power cord mount. We're starting at that diode to the right. We're now at the third diode over on this first row. So we're going to flip that over so you can see everything. And now we need to jump from that row over to the second row. The way we do this is kind of similar how we go from diode to diode. Go to the hole and then measure over to that screw, that bottom left screw. It's the furthest one over, but the closest one towards the next diode. So either way, they're symmetrical. Just cut at that point. That's your cutting point. So we're basically crossing from that diode to this diode. So now we're moving over, and things are coming along real nice. You'll find, a little bit of redundancy in what I'm teaching you here and what I'm showing you. Again, I'm coming back over the wire. This is the wire that we include with the kit for you to complete the kit. And so again, that you put the red and black together, and then you just pair it with the red and black that is from one diode to another, and it just makes this thing fly when you're setting it up. Now we're over at a little bit of an angle. You see where we started from. Now we're working over to this second row now, and take a note at these wire strippers. Well, I don't know if I'll get in this video here, but there we go, right there. See, we were able to do 2 at one time. So for $5 at Harbor Freight, it's an outstanding stripper. You can't get it at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can only get that one at Harbor Freight, from what I found. So we do not provide a soldering iron in the kit. You'll need your own. Standard 70 watts should do the trick. Again, coming back to the logo from the starting point, we went there to 3. Now we're jumping over to the 4th diode, and we're going to go this direction. We'll continue to do this so you understand the pattern of where everything's going to go. So this is the wiring pattern, and we're going to cover this several more times, so don't worry. We're going to cover this several more times, so you're going to know how this wire pattern goes so that you can do this right the first time around. We include extra stuff, so if you screw up, don't worry. If you break a diode, don't worry. It's really hard to break, but you know, if you're really rough with the terminals are probably the only weak point, and we'll be covering those up and strengthening them up later. Again, going right back to that measuring technique as we move over to the 6th diode now, where we're moving from our 5th diode to our 6th diode. So we cut the wire, and see the wire in her hands. Again, that's a wire from the kit, so you know you want to put that wire together as she's done. So take a look at that. It's just, again, so you're not confused of why we're doing what we're doing. We're just kind of clarifying it a little bit more here. And now we're going to go ahead and take that pair of red and black wire, and we're going to pair it with the wire that we just cut for the 6th diode. So that way we can cram all 4 wires, the wire that's going from the 5th diode to the 6th, and 2 extra wires that are coming from the included wire kit that will then run over to the 7th diode. So it's a real simple process. We'll keep repeating this over and over so that you feel very confident in building the light. And I probably, after I think back to it, we probably went over this like 10 times. So you're probably by now, you may get bored of the redundancy in showing the same process over and over. But we just want to make sure that if you've never touched a soldering iron or you never built anything like this, that you feel very comfortable doing so. Maybe you paid us to build the light for you, and you're just watching this video to see how your light was built, to understand the construction of it, so that maybe, in the future, if you want to change something out on it, or should anything break, or when the diodes reach their lifespan, you can always option to, repair and build the unit yourself. This grow light gives you full diversity and control over your garden, because it gives you full confidence in this grow light because you understand it. Other lights do not give you that. And above that, this light is super effective. It's built specifically for the cannabis industry. The profile and spectrum profile and wavelengths of spectrum have time and time again, for first-time growers, they're producing rock-hard, dense buds with this grow light. So keep at it. You're doing a great job if you're here. It's kind of, again, a rinse and repeat process where it's just kind of soldering and doing the same measuring technique. At this point, you probably kind of caught on how we're going about things. We're going to jump over from that red-orange diode right on over to the next red-orange diode, and we'll start completing that row as well. So again, here's the jump over. So we completed this whole second lane now, and we're jumping from the second lane over to the third lane. From that hole down to that hole is your measurement, and then again, place your finger on that hole. So coming down from that hole to that hole, and then up to that screw point. That gives you enough wire to not have an excessive amount of wire going to the diode, but not shorten yourself. It always sucks to shorten yourself because you feel like you got to redo it or you got to patch it. But we give a little bit extra heat shrink tubing in case you make a mistake. You've got what you need while having to wait for parts to be ordered. We add that in to give you a couple extra chances if you make any errors here. So not to worry. So again, we're looking at the pattern. We're starting from the top on over from the first row, the second row, the third row, and we're just kind of repeating this process of uh, soldering from diode to diode to diode. So at this point, you probably got the soldering down and the measuring your wire down, but we like to cover it over again just so you know exactly how we're doing it. And this way you can replicate exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's really simple. We're about to cross over to the other side of the board. Again, same technique here. From one diode to another diode, you put your finger on the hole, and then where the wire, touches one of those little black screws, that is your cutting point. Now we're going to come back over, just again, like I said, we're going to reiterate this multiple times. See the pattern of where we started from the start, where we are at right now. Right now we have one half of the board wired up. So now we need to jump over from one half of the board over to the other half of the board. And it's real simple. We just take the red and black and do exactly what we have been doing. So we're going to go from that hole to that hole, and then over to that black screw for the max length for the jump over. So we're going to go ahead and cover this over again. So we flipped it back over. And again, here's the wire that is included. So we're reiterating by showing this that you just leave that wire sitting there, and you're going to go ahead and measure over from one big hole to another, and then go over to the black screw there at the top left, just the furthest away screw, and you're going to cut the wire at that point, and then we're going to go ahead and just solder it on in. So we've already jumped over, and as you can see, this is the pattern. We're just soldering diode to diode, and now when we get to that top left corner red orange diode, we're going to jump from there to the yellow one, and we're going to repeat the same process on out to where the power cord would be. So as we cover over the design, if you look at the original starting point and how we're going about things, we've crossed over, and all we're doing now is simply going from row to row, rinsing and repeating the same process. By now you feel really confident, and you're probably like, well, I kind of got this. Some of you may not need to follow the video along, for the remaining of the of each row, but I would advise that when you get to the last row, don't go wild west and do it yourself. Be sure to watch the video at the last diode. If for those of you that are a little bit more confident and just go ahead and doing the rest of diodes yourself, we'll go ahead and be jumping over to a more finished wired out grow light here in a minute, because by now we feel you've probably got the pattern, and we'll cover over the pattern again. So starting from the point of origin where we installed the first diode, this is the pattern. You can rewind the video and look at the pattern. So it's basically a mirror of the other side. So see the one half side that's done from the starting point. We came down over here. Now we've crossed over from one half to the other half, and we're just going to be basically mirroring the other side and continuing to connect one diode after another diode using the same exact steps that we've been doing. So it's really simple. I mean, I couldn't emphasize it more. Now we've gone ahead and jumped over another row or two, so you can see that how we progressed the light. Now we're just going to finish this way on over and out the power cord. Real simple stuff. Anyone can build this light, and that's what makes this light so attractive to gardeners, because they want control factor. No one likes to feel concerned if their light ever goes out. They got to spend all this money. No, we're going to be putting the diodes at an affordable pricing range, so you can always change the spectrums as you wish. If you want to buy extra diode packs and make put more reds on it or more yellows. We have other colors, blues and things like that, but we found in our spectral radiometer test, these two diodes are the best when they are paired together. They cover everything most all plants need, especially cannabis. So here we're now at the point where we're going to start wiring the power cord. So we're going to cover back over the whole pattern here. We've from start to finish, we've wired on over. See a little bit of slack in somewheres. That may happen to you. We're just kind of going along here showing you the typical best practices on getting the wire through. But now that's where the power cord comes out. Those 4 holes. In your design, you will have 5 holes. We had to drill the hole in our design because this this design was dated before we had our robotics team cut that ground hole out. Now take a look at that power cord. See which end that we cut. So you leave the end that plugs in the wall. Okay, you leave that end alone. Now take either a knife, and be careful of the knife, or a pair of wire strippers like we did here, you know, a little cheap pair of wire strippers, and pull the shielding off of the power cord. So you're going to have 3 wires. These are 3 wires that are pretty much in every U.S. standard electrical 110 house appliance. So pretty much anything that plugs into the wall outlets of your house all use this black, green, and white wire in the power cord plug. Now your kit comes with a washer or 2, just in case you drop one. We probably included an extra. Put that little washer on the green wire. Okay, maybe a little tricky here. As you can see, it's a little bit of a fight back and forth. Once you got it on, bend the green wire over the little washer. That way it kind of hooks through the washer. And what we're going to do is there's going to be a grounding point. We incorporate NEMA, typical electrical standards for a NEMA plug to have a grounding point. So the grow light design is not a fire hazard. It is not a electrical shock hazard. It follows the safety standards that one would expect for an electrical device. So here we're going to take the grounding screw, and we're going to then ground this unit to the plate. A little tricky because you got to get the screw in there, and it's got to kind of hug past the wire that's also through the hole of that little washer. And it goes in that center hole there. Now again, at the start of the video, you'll notice there's only 4 holes, and we had to screw this hole in. Your unit has this hole robotically cut in it, so not to worry, you don't have to make the hole yourself. And now pay attention to this. The wires that are left over from when you measured the wiring coming off that last diode, from the very last diode that you installed, be sure to take the heat shrink tubing and put 1 heat shrink tubing over the red. Make the heat shrink tubing about 1 inch long. Okay, and see the heat shrink tubing sitting there in the back. You want to put one over the black, one over the red. Then now go ahead, and we're going to be wiring the red wire to the white wire of the power cord that you plug in the wall. Then we're going to take the black wire from the diodes, and we're going to connect the black wire to the black wire of the power cord. So we try to keep it simple. That's why we did it in our wiring schema. We do it that way so things are not very confusing. So the white wire from the power cord goes to red. The black wire from the power cord goes to the black wire on the diodes. The green wire goes through the washer and gets screwed to the chassis of the grow light. Now she's going to go ahead and solder this wiring terminal here, and solder that down so that those connections are permanent and they're going to hold. And you can have faith in them. Don't be a little patient here because things can get kind of hot. See the heat shrink tubing. We need to shrink the tubing over those soldering points. But right now, as I'm touching it, it's not hot anymore, so we can go ahead and proceed. And we have a fan over here. I got to move this fan. You want to keep a fan around if you're soldering. You don't want to be sucking in solder. I should have showed that in the beginning of the video. I forgot. But right now, we're going to put a lighter, like a standard cigarette lighter or a barbecue lighter is what we use, to put that heat shrink tubing over those soldered connection points. And then we're going to use direct flame to make that heat shrink tubing shrink down on the wire. Now, no worries here. The wire that covers over the diodes is ultra high heat wiring, so you can't really melt it. The paint on the grow lights is automotive engine paint, so it can stain over 550 degrees Fahrenheit. So all this stuff is pretty much fireproof except the power cords and the plastic diode caps. If fire is left on those for a period of time, they can stay on fire, but you'd have to really be trying to get any of the components that can actually burn. You'd have to really be trying to get them to burn. So here we put the silicone. That silicone is not included. Pay attention to the type of silicone we just showed in the kit, because it doesn't come with the kit. You can buy it at Lowe's or Home Depot if you need to. Back up the video, and at the start of the video we showed that silicone, but just to go over it again, you need that particular General Electric silicone. It's made for high heat and it's perfect for this application. So you're basically going to put silicone in this wire relief this wire relief cap right here, this Gamma Blaster cap, and then you're gonna screw all 4 screws into the chassis so that it's permanently mounted. And this way, once it dries up, you know, if you accidentally go yanking on your power cord, it's not going to yank the wires and yank all that out of your grow lights build. So it's typically just a relief mount for the wiring going from the power cord to the diodes. And right now, the fun part is we're at a point where we can go ahead and power this thing up and test it out. So I'm pretty sure you're very excited to see if you built everything right, and if you did, it's going to power on. Now, if anything makes a little popping noise, make sure you have nothing around that could catch on fire, because right now, when we plug this in, we are dealing with live voltage. Don't touch your fingers on any of the electrical points. All you're going to do is just plug this in, and you're not going to touch the grow light with your hands, because it is a shock hazard at this point. But you want to make sure all the diodes are turning on. It is extremely bright. It's probably going to prompt you to turn your face away. Anyone that's in the room is going to be turning away from the light. It is that bright. It's extremely, extremely bright. I cannot emphasize that enough. So don't stare at it. It'll make you see little squares for a period of time. Right now, we're kind of hazy-daisied out because our vision has a bunch of little squares from having to be subjected to that light's power on test. And it'll jack your vision for a little bit. Now, again, take a look at that General Electric silicone that we use, about $6 at Lowe's or Home Depot, and we're going to put it over all these connection points. It's non-conductive, so it doesn't allow any electricity to flow through the silicone. So here's how we do it. We take the silicone and we surround the wires, and make a circle, and then we fill in the circle. It's very simple. Now you want to pot up a little bit of a mound right there. Because if you notice on the bottom of the green diode caps, there's little ridges in the bottom of the green diode caps, and those are there so that the silicone can stick into those little ridges and make a really good, nice, permanent bond holding the cap down. Now we're going to go ahead and just screw this one cap in, and we're not going to show all 24. That would be a little bit excessive in video time, but go ahead and put the screw into the diode cap, and then screw it in. Now don't hulk it down because you don't want to split the plastic. Only drill it down to where you see it's snug, but you don't want to break that little cap's mounting point.